Welcome everyone to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I am your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined this week by my co-host, Katie Harris. Katie, thanks again for joining us this week to talk to two very awesome and special guests that we have this week. We have Kelley Dolan she's a business development advisor over at Dolan Management. Kelley, thanks for joining us today.
The newest business development advisor.
The newest, yes.
Yes.
A new team member over there at Dolan. We're partial to those people over at Dolan. We like you guys, so we're excited to talk to you about that. And we also have another special guest, Stephanie Suchocki, who's the VP of Operations over at Superior Restoration. Stephanie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
It's going to be an awesome podcast. We have a lot we want to talk about. You both kind of have a shared connection with RIA, and so we're going to spend some time discussing that and all the cool things you're doing over there. But first and foremost, we want to familiarize. Man, I can't talk today, but we want to get you familiar with our audience a little bit. So I think I'll start with Kelley. I'll let you kind of kick things off and let's talk a little bit about your career background, how you got into the restoration world maybe, and what you're doing right now.
Sure. I got into the restoration world by luck. I moved to Manhattan, and I did say luck there because I love it. I moved to Manhattan. I was going to
ask you, Kelley, is that good luck, bad luck?
It was good luck. It was good luck. I found my people. Moved to Manhattan from New Hampshire, was working with a temp agency to try to find work. And they were like, we have this company called Maxon's Restorations. They need like sales support. Can you do that? And I was like, sure. And then 20 years later, I was still there. So I got really lucky. It was an awesome group of people. I was able to grow both as a human, as a leader, figuring out what I wanted to do as a career while I was there. So it was amazing. Maxon's was bought out by First Onsite, acquired, I'll say, by First Onsite a few years ago. And at that time, I did make the move to First Onsite corporate side, where I got involved in a lot of internal projects, did a lot of work with culture, and eventually ended up leading their global marketing team to fill a little bit of a void that had been left by a leader having to depart. So I got exposure to a whole new set of things, which I think the restoration world, that's what happens. You just learn something by the gift of being there. So I was with First Onsite for a few years, and just last week, so I am on day 7 of my time with Dolan as of this recording, and looking forward to getting back to the small business world and restoration and really being hands-on with the owners again. I think that's where my passion lies, in being able to help them as they grow, because that's very near and dear to my heart.
Oh, I love it. I don't think you need sold on this, because I don't think you'd joined them or still be with them 7 days later if you didn't already know this. But we're big fans of the Dolan group, and especially Chuck. Chuck's come on the podcast multiple times. Last time we had him on, we were talking about his book, and Katie and I are big fans. Katie's known him for a long time. He was kind of one of the first contacts we made here at Spot On Solutions. Katie and Derek and Michael really wanted to kind of connect with him, and he started referring clients over to us, and we just we're big fans of them, and I know you're going to be an awesome part of their team. So that's great.
He was the first trip we did. Like, we got on an airplane. We started Spot On Solutions. We got on an airplane and flew to Ohio and sat down with Chuck Dolan first thing. So you are definitely at a great place. I think you got to beware of Jeff Jones. Like, Jeff Jones will get you in trouble. You got to beware of Jeff Jones, but Chuck, good guy. So for sure, right, Stephanie? Jeff Jones will get us in trouble.
Yeah, I'm just excited that Kelley's on that team. Dolan, they've been our business coach in the past too, and they're just an incredible team. So I'm excited for her.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's sweet, guys.
And
I'm
Kelley,
excited too.
The first time I met Kelley, man, I don't know. It was a lot of years ago now. I don't even know if you know the first time I met you, but I believe Justin and Christy Sifford introduced me to you at a Dolan event.
At Dolan. We had chicken wings.
At a Dolan event, and I was judging the Women in Restoration contest with Michelle Blevins, which you won. So
I think I was runner up.
Were you runner up?
Yeah,
Okay,
I've
well, then
never
I think
won.
I
I'm
voted
always
for you. So you won in my book because I was one of the judges and I was super impressed with everything I learned about you in that. And that is when I first met you. So it was
yeah,
fantastic.
I'm always a bridesmaid, never a bride for that award.
Oh.
I think I've come in runner up like 3 times.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, I remember that we went out for chicken wings.
Yes,
That was a great. We had a
yes,
lot
we
of
did.
wings.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's right. Yeah, that's when we first met. So I guess
Yeah.
we've got deep ties to Viola and Claire back then. So that's very
just
cool.
That's so
the
cool.
magic of Violand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
seriously.
really, I think it speaks to where we're going to go in this whole conversation. It's really the magic of the restoration industry, right? So when
really
you
is.
say you lucked out and these are my people, I found my people, like I was like, that's the magic of the restoration industry. So we'll jump over to Stephanie and hear her journey, but that's where we're going to go as we talk about RIA here in a minute. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about your journey here.
Yeah, thank you. And great story, Kelley. I didn't know all of those details, so I'm excited to hear about it too. I was gonna say that I fell into restoration, but after Kelley said by luck, I don't want to. And I do have a violin connection too, and several coaches at violin to thank that have connected me to RIA, which we'll get into talking about later. So yeah, all around connections with violin, but anyway, so restoration, I actually got engaged. It's a kind of a shout out to my husband that I fell into restoration. I got engaged to my husband later on in life. I told my husband we waited 39 years to find the love of our lives, I think. So shout out to my husband. But yeah, so I moved to the area that we're currently in and was reacclimated, left my previous career, kind of wanted to do a whole different career change, but I previously worked in childhood education and insurance background. So I had my broker license, and I think those two kind of meshed, really prepared me for the restoration industry. But I don't want to talk about all my previous work experience, but I think all of that, prepped me for this current role and just working in restoration. But yeah, so I came out here, was looking to both my daughters were in middle school and high school, and was slowly working myself back into the career path, and then applied for the position here in the administrative kind of operations role. And our company was so new back then. It was over 10 years ago. We were small. We had maybe 10 employees. I remember like my first week, I was like, what kind of place is this and what kind of job is this? It was a little chaotic.
Yep.
I was incredibly organized person. I was a little bit scared, but I really loved it. Like Kelley said, I fell into it. And I was like, okay, I like chaos. I like this emergency service. It's a little unorthodox. It was just everything about it. Like it was weird for me, but I also loved the opportunity to learn more about it. And I have a big heart for blue collar work. And so I was super appreciative that restoration was providing jobs and careers for people looking to come into blue collar work. As you know, again, through the 10 years I've progressed, I worked in HR, I worked in accounting. I've done every job here other than like take a hammer and put a nail into the baseboard, so to speak, in some way or another. And then the last couple of years, I've been overseeing all the operations of the company for about 3 years. And previously I was a general manager and operations manager. And then just recently, kind of like Kelley's story, we were acquired last fall by High Ground. But we still function and run as Superior Restoration. Nothing's changed in our brand and stuff, but that's been exciting and a new journey for us. And that's kind of I think a short version of my career. But
That's
how I got
awesome.
to restoration, by just meeting my husband, relocating, and it was at the right time in the right place.
So cool.
And I will say Jeff Jones is also the connection between Stephanie and I.
Yep.
He is the one that introduced us
Yes.
and kind of made the connection for us with RIA this year. So
yes, he did.
That's
And he
a
also,
common link here.
yeah, he also connected me to RIA and said, hey, you need to volunteer. We'll get into that later. But yeah, Jeff has done that for me in many ways.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Well,
Stephanie, when you say you love chaos, I think what you actually mean is you have a superpower of fixing chaos. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair
You
enough.
don't love chaos. You can fix chaos, right?
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say you're right. I wouldn't say that I love chaos, but I love turning chaos into calm, right? And like working on problems. That I really get a lot of joy out of that, solving stuff.
yeah, you're in the right industry for that. I feel like, Stephanie. I think that's
Yeah.
restoration is very much there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of and you can be the calm. What's cool about, maybe being a part of a restoration company is you can be the calm for like people in their personal chaos, right? They've just had a fire in their home, or they've had a water loss. Like, you have the opportunity to like be the calm in the storm for them, to help them get through this tragedy, which is yeah, you're in the right place. I feel like if that's something that you're passionate about, and organizing the chaos, you're going to get lots of opportunities to do that in a restoration. So that's cool that you've really found that.
Yeah.
Katie and I talked briefly before we were recording today. And it's something that I've noticed quite a bit over the last few months. So I'm going to put all three of you on the spot, but mostly Stephanie and Kelley. I feel like more so than ever, there are a lot of really awesome women in the restoration industry. When I think of like, what is the restoration industry and who are these pillars in the industry, I feel like there are some really like powerhouse women in the industry, and I'm surrounded by three of them right here in this podcast. So I'd love to, if
You are outnumbered today,
I am
Hayden.
outnumbered today, but Katie, there's been a lot of podcasts that I've been outnumbered, which has been cool. Like, we've done a ton of episodes with Michelle Blevins. We've done episodes with like Marcy Richardson. We've done episodes with, a bunch of different really awesome and cool stories that I've been, I get to be the front row seat to, which is great. And so I'd love to hear a little bit, Kelley and Stephanie, I don't know if you have thoughts on this, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is it becoming more of a trend, and why do you think that is? Like, are women flocking to the restoration industry? It's mostly been male dominated. Do you feel like that's something that's kind of happening naturally, or maybe there's some drivers behind that?
And specifically, what are you seeing in RIA, in the
Yeah, there you
Restoration
go.
Industry Association?
Kelley, do you want to speak to that first, or? Okay. So those were all great questions. And I used to think, I had one thought maybe a couple years ago than how I feel now. I do feel it's more organic now.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a big emphasis on, it was a male dominated industry. And I think that was so focused on that maybe people, I don't necessarily know this, I'm just speaking out of just personal experience, may have been intimidated by that. Like, oh, it's male dominated, there's no women, we need to highlight women. I think that I'm a true believer that things that stay happen naturally. And
Yeah.
so I think more women have naturally, organically come into the industry because just like women and men, we definitely want careers that are economy proof, right?
Yeah.
And so as many people will speak to, restoration is more economy proof than other industries, supposedly. I don't have the data to back that, but that's what you hear. Doesn't necessarily always mean that or equate to that because, obviously companies have to adjust. But that being said, I feel like it's happened more organically because there's been a more draw to it, right? And then also, I'm always speaking to women like, hey, this is a great industry. Why don't you come into it? So it's happening. We're talking to our friends and our family members, and people in the industry are referring people to apply for jobs, right? That maybe are women more than before. Because when I came into the industry, I remember attending my first conference for a GM conference, and there was 200 people in there, and I was the only woman in that course.
Wow.
And we all have stories like that, but I don't think that should be the actual highlight. I think it should be that this is a great career, right? It is a great career. It is what you make of it, whether it be female or not. And there are some really amazing trailblazers, like you mentioned, Michelle and Marcy and Kelley, like people like that are in the industry that are making it more accessible and more attractive to women, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to stuff like operations and business developments like that, women do really well in those roles. And so I think that that's for me. I'm always telling people, come apply for this job. It's not the accounting and HR jobs only, right?
Yeah.
We can do a great job in operations as mitigation technicians, as contents technicians. And so I'm passionate about male or female, just come into the industry, right? It's a great job to come into. You don't need a college degree, right? It's a great job to start your career in, regardless if male or female. That's really how I feel about it.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Kelley, what
So
do you
good.
think?
Oh, I'd feel the same. I mean, I I think there's a certain level of growth that has happened in the industry too in the last 5 years or so, where um, I think we're having a lot more earnest, honest conversations about where we are as an industry and who's involved. I think having those conversations just puts the antenna up for people to look
Yeah.
at workforce differently. Um, so to me, it's exciting to see how many not just in leadership and management, but how many females are in the field themselves and leading crews, right? Like a lot of times they are natural people leaders with those groups, and they stumble into it, but then they continue to build that career. So similar to what Stephanie said, I think it's a great blue collar industry to be a part of, a great way to grow a career, and I think that the industry is changing enough now that sort of women in those leadership roles feels less out of the ordinary.
Yep.
It feels a lot more commonplace, and I think it's I think since I've been in the industry, it's changed a lot. But I think in the last few years, it's even gotten that much easier for everyone.
Yeah.
Now, do we have a long way to go in other areas? I think so, but I think we now have the conversations have started, right, about being more conscious about who we are employing, and I think that's a great step.
Yeah. Well, and to both your and Stephanie's point, like it's happened very naturally. And so I think it's more likely to stick when it does happen like naturally like this. Like there's been very natural growth, and there's naturally been, women in, putting in they've been put in leadership positions. They've grown into leadership positions and, on their own merits. And I love I've just had some awesome conversations and met some really amazing women in the industry. And I think it speaks to who they are as individuals, but also how cool this industry is. You both have talked about how much you love it, and you've both been like outspoken in your love for the industry. And I think that's what makes it attractive to other individuals, is they see, wow, this is, recession proof, or this is an industry that I can learn and grow. And I don't necessarily, there's a lot of different avenues, right? I don't just have to be an accountant or whatever, right? Like you were saying, Stephanie, like there's a lot of different options within this career, that like there's a lot of different jobs. You don't have to be pigeonholed into one job. Like there's so many different things you can be doing. And
Sometimes
anyways,
there's too many jobs.
well, yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
I know Stephanie knows what I mean. Sometimes there's too many hats.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to know how to do too many things.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of the chaos. Yeah.
What Kelley said earlier, we definitely, I think as an industry, can do a better job attracting more people into the production field, more women into the mitigation technician role, contents technician role, running crews and stuff like that. But I think that, we're pushing towards that, but I definitely think that's always, as with everything, an area of continuous improvement.
Yeah. Love it. Well, there's one thing that you were both involved in, and this is kind of, something that we really wanted to focus on for a portion of this podcast, the majority of this podcast. It's something that Katie and I really wanted to talk about with you both. You're both involved in RIA, and I would love to kind of hear from, I know Stephanie, you're a little bit newer to RIA. Kelley, you've been a part of it for a while now, but I'd love to hear your perspectives, and maybe your descriptions for somebody that is newer to the industry. I'm probably the newest of you three to the industry when it comes to restoration. So if you wouldn't mind, let's talk a little bit about what is RIA and how you both initially got involved. I know Stephanie said you were invited by Jeff Jones over at Dolan. He told you it was something that you probably should get a little bit more involved in. But Kelley, talk a little bit about how you got involved in RIA and what is RIA.
Sure. RIA stands for the Restoration Industry Association. So RIA is the trade association for the restoration industry. It is a nonprofit. Our pillars are to educate, advocate, and elevate restorers. So the goal there being to we say this a lot, and I'm a board member now, and we say this a lot in board meetings where it's like a rising tide lifts all ships. I'm saying that wrong, but
No, that's
that
right.
saying
That's
where
good.
was it was all right.
That's perfect.
That together we're able to help each other come together. I think all of us at some point or another have needed to lean on another RIA member, so it is really about creating the community but also elevating the community. As I was saying, like, there's been a lot of growth and a lot of change in the last few years, and a lot of that is initiated by the RIA listening to its members and hearing what they're needing as a group and trying to prioritize that at events like Stephanie and I are working on, which is the annual convention coming up in April. One of the reasons I got involved in RIA is I had kind of grown in my career at a small restoration firm, a regional restoration firm, right? And sort of felt a little alone. I was doing HR, I was doing internal ops, I was doing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, which I had a leadership team with me and I had all my staff, which was great, but I was feeling a little removed from the business because I was so internal customer based, right? So my CEO and owner at the time, Damon Gersh, was like, go to RIA this year. And I was like, I'm not good with a lot of people in a room that I don't know. Like, I'm that person who'll just hide in the corner if allowed. But I went to my first one by myself. There wasn't anyone else from my company there, so I didn't really have anyone to lean on. But I knew a few people, and one of them happened to be the Saint Michael Pinto, who was like the mayor of RIAville, and took me around the trade show and introduced me to everyone, and was so gracious and so wonderful. Met a lot of people at that first show that I still remember awkwardly meeting that first time. But I ended up, like so many people, riding in an elevator with Mark Springer, and he said, "Oh, Kelley, so and so told me about you and that you want to get involved." And I was like, "What?" And then he was like, I'll follow up with you." I didn't know this at the time. This is classic Mark Springer. This is what he does to people. So shortly after that, I was involved with the planning committee, and then a year after that, I was chair. So
They got you year one, Kelley. They got
me
you year one.
One.
Man.
Yeah. And I knew who he was because I'd seen him on stage that morning, right? Like, he was talking to everyone. So I'm like, oh, this is an important guy. So I was like, hi, I'm Kelley Dolan from Maxons. And he was like, oh, somebody got me. I still don't truly know who the source was who said my name at some point to Mark Springer, but steel trapped that man's brain. So yeah, I got involved, and I said this years ago at an event, but I started having to document my time during the acquisition as to what I really loved about my day, what gave me energy, what I was excited about, because we're trying to figure out what to do with me. And I got a weekend and was talking about it with my new boss. And he's like, I don't know if you noticed this, but everything that gives you joy is RIA based. And it was such a great moment that I hadn't noticed it. And he was able to see it so quickly. And I realized the value it meant to me. It got me out of my bubble. I am still an introvert, but I have the best time at RIA with everyone. And I learned something every moment of that conference. Like, it's just so much fun. And just the circle of friends I've made as a volunteer has been incredible. It speaks again to the magic of the restoration industry. That was my long-winded story. Did I answer everything we needed to do?
Yes, of course.
Basics.
No, that's awesome.
That is why you are one of the poster children for RIA right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, it literally did all the things for me it says it wants to do. It did for me as an individual. Like, never mind what it's done for the companies I've worked with, right? But for me individually, it accomplished its mission.
The Success Elevated podcast is brought to you by SOS Navigator. SOS Navigator is an on-demand training platform geared towards marketing, personal development, and business growth. We understand that as a business owner in the service industry, you wear a million hats. Let SOS Navigator be a simple and cost-effective way for you to continue to grow your business. Click the link in the show notes below and use code SOS Podcast to get 10% off your next on-demand training course.
So how many years now, Kelley, have you been going to RIA? Do you know the first year you went? When did that start for you?
It's not that long ago for as involved as I am. I want to say maybe 2016, 2017.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, it's not.
I think my first year was 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, we had been like we as a company had been members for so
Yeah.
long, right? But like my ops people would go, or the sales leader would go. Like I never went.
Yeah.
And we hosted like a big event one time in the city, but I never got to go. And then so the first year I got to go, it was a game changer.
Yeah. So for everybody listening to this podcast, like RIA, the Restoration Industry Association trade show, is really right in the heart or right in the heat of trade show season, right? For the restoration industry, there is trade show season where the shows are happening and RIA is right there in it. And it's probably for Spot On Solutions anyway, it's one of the shows that we hit every single year. And it's one of the shows that we can expect that we're going to see everybody at. We're going to see clients at it. We're going to see affiliates at it. Like it's the show that some of the best keynote speakers are going to be at. Some of the best education is going to be at. A lot of times there's big things happening in the industry that we need advocates for. And RIA is always a front runner for that advocacy. You know, there's big things that are happening and RIA can be real proponents for that restorers need help with. So it's a big deal. You know, I know I'm always surprised at how many clients we work with that I'm like, hey, do you go to RIA? And they don't know what it is. And so I think that the way you speak about it, you know, I was just thinking as you were talking, like we should clip that little piece, right? And pull it out because it's a very passionate, personal way to talk about. We think about it a lot of times what RIA does for companies, right? And how companies send people to it and companies go to it for the trade show and the training and the advocacy and the education and things like that. But very rarely do we talk about it or hear people talk about it, what it personally does for individuals, for team members. When owners send team members to the show. And I thought you just did a really great job talking about it that way.
Thanks. I'm a full believer that like getting to go to that show is an investment in that staff member. I know a lot of times employers are worried because like, oh, I spend all this money and getting them there and getting them exposure and experience and then they leave. It's like, yeah, but what if you don't and they stay? I mean, it's every one of the staff members I've ever gone with who've been there have said like they are so thankful and so appreciative and enjoy it so much. And like they're like, I met so many great people. It's like, yeah, you just trip over great people at the show. Like you don't even have to try.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, Stephanie, how about you? Talk to us a little bit about what you know about RIA, what you like about RIA. It's a lot newer to you, but somebody roped you into the board as well.
Yeah, no, a little bit of the same experience as Kelley too. I try to lie and say I'm an introvert, but I'm really an extrovert. I'm like that in-between person. I forgot what that was, like the extrovert introvert. So I actually, our former CEO, I advocated to go and take some team members with us because, you know, being newer in the industry and then all the great stuff I was hearing about RIA and just all the different things that RIA was doing more recent, I was like, how can I be a part of, like, how can I get to know people? You know, in California, I know it's a big state and we're a little bit landlocked. A lot of the stuff happens with conferences in the Midwest and on the East Coast, and we don't get as many opportunities to meet people in our industry. And so it happened to be in Reno the first year I went. And so I was like, oh, I can totally.
That was your first year? Reno was your first year?
Yes.
That's the year everybody was like, why are we in Reno?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Right. I wasn't like, hey, I need to get a vacation. I don't want to say that because anybody from Reno might not like this. But I wasn't like, hey, I'm dying to go to Reno, but it was super close, right? For West Coast people. And I was like, thank goodness it's finally closer. And so I was able to bring team members with us too. And I saw Katie speak for the first time. I was like, okay, hello. Like, this is my first experience. And I just thought she blew me away. Right. And so I was like,
yeah,
you know, when you like have that aha moment, like there's a reason why I'm here. And there's a reason why I was seeing Katie. I feel like all of that kind of fell in alignment with like, what I personally in my career and where I had been in the industry, it was like the conference and the recommendation to go to the conference had came at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
And so I met Kelley there. I met, like a lot of people you guys had mentioned early on in at the beginning of this podcast is I met a lot of good like fellow, I guess we say like friends and people and women in the industry that I had not known and got an opportunity that I would not have had to go see them speak. And so I thought that was fantastic. I mean, Michelle Blevins had recommended that I go to the conference. I had been to a lot of conferences pre RIA, and I felt like this was the first conference where I got to meet people in my industry where we weren't all like, how do we get jobs? How are we looking for this? How do we, compete against each other? It was very, and I hate to like sound corny, but kind of kumbaya-ish, right?
Yeah.
I got to really network with people and figure out and talk about best practices, things that we were struggling at our company. Hey, can you connect me with this person? I think they could help. Oh, you need to meet this person. It was such an incredible networking experience. At that, and just that was like my first experience. And then when I was there, I don't know who spoke about volunteering, but it might have been you, Kelley. Yeah. And I spoke and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like I'm that person that always volunteers. And I was like, wow, why did I volunteer for so much? And I thought that it would be like, I wanted to also take a step outside of my comfort level and be like, let me volunteer, let me get involved. And like literally months later, I was on the membership committee, was my first year. And then this year is my first year on the, I wouldn't say I'm co-chairing because Kelley is doing all the work, but I'm just helping with her with the conference planning. So this is my first year. I'm kind of getting my feet wet with helping with co-chairing on the conference, but it's been an incredible experience. And the amount of people that I've met personally, I think that has not only elevated just my knowledge in the industry, but also elevated my career.
Oh, it's awesome.
Mhm.
I think, you both mentioned something, and Katie's even mentioned it too, is with these trade shows that I think a lot of other industries miss, because I feel like the restoration industry does this better than anybody I talk to outside of the restoration industry. But there's this sense of community, like you feel like you belong to something, and you meet these people that can help you grow your business and you can help them. And, Stephanie, you mentioned networking and oh, you've got to go get introduced to this person and they're going to help you do this. And then you're going to learn about like, tricks of the trade. Like there's so many cool things about being a part of a community like this that I think a lot of business owners miss out on. I think, so many business owners are so concerned with beating their competitors, and they don't want to help their competitors. They don't want to give their competitors an advantage. But like, there's this sense of belonging that is so cool about, a trade show. Katie and I, Katie took me, this is, not necessarily RIA, but Katie took me to this coaching conference that we went to in November. And it was geared towards leadership. And me and another member of our leadership team here at Spot On Solutions got to go and participate in this. And it was so cool to be there with other leaders that, some were business owners, but some were managers like myself. And it was so cool to be in an event with all of these other like-minded people that were also trying to grow their business, and like rub shoulders with them and get to talk and learn from them and ask questions. And like, that's what's so cool about these trade shows and an event like RIA is like, you get to do this with people that are in your industry. Like you're going to go talk with hundreds of people that are all experiencing the same problems that you are experiencing, that are struggling getting paid and getting and hiring people, and are, struggling to deal with jobs and certain types of job. Like there's just all these things that are so cool about being a part of a community like this that I think a
Yeah.
lot of business owners just miss out on,
And Hayden, if I can add, I forgot to say this, and it's super important. I think what I felt after I left is I think a lot of people that are outside of this, and this was a big draw for me, that have never attended this conference, right, or been a part of RIA, is sometimes when you're in a role and you haven't connected with people in your network, you have this little bit of imposter syndrome. Like you're like, hey, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
What am I doing? And then when you go, I truly walked away feeling like, oh, yeah, that's my people. Like Kelley was saying
Yeah.
earlier, not to steal that from it, but hey, I am doing this right. And it really kind of shored up myself, like in my career, but also in my role. I felt way more confident when I came back. And I felt like if you're going to invest in your people, that's the way you do it.
Oh, so cool. I love it. The imposter syndrome thing is a real thing. It totally is. And I think having some reassurance that you're doing the right thing. And, oh, I'm having the same problem that you're having. Like, I'm not the only one that is struggling to hire and keep good technicians. How are you guys hiring and keeping your technicians? And, like, it just having those conversations is so cool. And I think, again, it's something that is missed in a lot of other industries. I feel like restoration does it really well. That, some of my favorite clients work really closely with their competitors, which I feel like is so outside the box from any other industry. And it's because they go to events like this and they learn from their peers and they learn from people around them. And then they take that information home. And I think it's really cool. And RIA is obviously a great place to do that. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on at this year's RIA. I know Katie and Stephanie, you're on a board together. You're going to be doing like some kind of.
We're on a panel together.
You're on a panel together, not a board. You're on a panel. You're doing a presentation together. Talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on this year. How can people learn about it, get signed up, all of that?
Yeah, so I'm actually moderating 3 panelists that Katie's a part of.
Perfect.
She could probably speak. I want to let her speak to it because she's the professional in this specific conversation.
Make sure we don't go rogue on this panel.
Yeah,
that's good.
Happen. Hey,
Stephanie, you better keep her reined in because she'll be all over the place. Okay,
and I'm all over the place too, so we'll see how it goes. Right?
We're gonna roll. She was like really good at organizing chaos.
Yes,
that's it. She's gonna keep us in line.
This is gonna be your biggest challenge there, Stephanie.
We'll have a signal. It'll be like 2 snaps, Katie, or something.
Yeah.
On track, Katie. On track. Come on. Back. No, it's gonna be cool. So it's an SEO panel. So we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, and we've got some really cool things about SEO and getting found online. We're gonna talk about reviews. We're gonna talk about content. We're gonna talk about AI. So we've got some really great topics that we're gonna give some great pointers on, and then we're gonna have some Q&A so people can really walk out of the room with some things that they can go and implement. And I think I'm excited about that. That's going to be a fun panel.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's one panel. How many other panels and other discussions are there going to, I'm sure there's a lot of them, right?
Yeah, there's quite a bit. I think it's the day before, day after. I'm going to be moderating another breakout session that I'm super passionate about SEO, Katie. Don't get me wrong in LSA.
I know.
Yeah. But I'm also super passionate about recruitment and retention and mastering workforce strategies. And so that is another session that I am lucky enough to be able to help moderate with a great panel too. And there's a lot of other breakout sessions. I'm actually really excited. This has gone really smoothly, I think, Kelley, unless I haven't been in. I haven't been in previous years. I have nothing to stand on, no legs to stand on. But it seems pretty obviously they know what they're doing, all people on this chair. But I think there's some great breakout sessions. What do you think, Kelley?
Yeah, so the challenge every year is to try to get topics that everyone cares about, to not do the same thing over and over again, but kind of hit all the meat in the industry, but also give people some new stuff that they maybe wouldn't be exposed to. So I'm very excited about the panel on SEO. There's a couple of things about IICRC standards. There's some emotional intelligence discussions that are being planned for. So it's all over the place, which is why it's good to bring some staff, because you may expose them to stuff that you're maybe not doing that they can bring back and help you initiate at the company. As per usual, there is some pre-course education. So we have both building, construction, and science, and project management, which are highly desired CE credits for building up those RA certifications. We don't do a lot of technical training at the show outside that education, because I think over the past few years, we've seen IICRC and RA working together does such a great job doing that education year round that we don't tend to focus it in on the show. So it's a lot more variety of topics than just sort of technical knowledge. But there is an IICRC standards discussion that's being planned. I'll say the most exciting thing about this year, which is sort of related, but it's mostly just good timing. So the conference and trade show is April 8th through 10th. So it opens Monday night, goes through Wednesday. The last event, I know a lot of people skip out on because they want to travel, but this is going to be kind of an amazing session where it's leaders from the industry talking about sort of candid stories about how they got where they got, maybe some missteps, being really honest about what it's taken to get kind of into where they're at in the restoration industry. So I wanted to plug that one because it is at the end of the last day. But most exciting is that Monday during the day, if you get there early enough, there is an eclipse happening in Dallas, where the show is going to be. It's going to be one of the best places in the US to view this eclipse from. So exciting moment to like experience this universe event together.
Yeah.
But also, there will not be a lot of extra hotel rooms.
It's going to be a little busy in
I heard
Dallas.
hotel rooms were going fast.
Yeah,
Actually,
I had to
That's
get 2
part
queen
of it.
beds. I had to get 2 queen beds. So if anybody wants to go, share a bed.
Yeah. So Stephanie has got an extra bed. She will be auctioning that off. No, but it's, in all seriousness, we ran out of hotel rooms last year when we were in Florida at our main hotel, our backup hotel, and then there was also an event happening in Orlando that the 2 other hotels closest to us were full. So it was a real scramble for people who made late reservations. So we've beaten our numbers every year for the last few years. So last year we were over 1,000 people. We don't get to get a room block that big. So everyone, if you have not booked your hotel room, please, please, please go in and do it. While you're doing it, you should just register. I mean, there's no reason to not do those things at the same time. And get yourself committed, because if you don't get it on the calendar, if you don't get it planned, if you don't put the intention behind it, it's gonna be here before you know it. I actually looked at the countdown earlier and I choked a little bit when I saw how close it was.
It's coming up.
But it's soon.
Yeah.
April's going to be here like that. It's already February.
Yeah, we're in February. So the beginning of April will be here in half a minute.
Crazy.
Book it, get it on the calendar, and get on out to RIA this year.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. It sounds, again, just some of the things that you mentioned, like those panels and those breakout sessions sound great. I think, there's a lot of obviously benefit to going to just a trade show, just to go to the trade show and learn about new things in the industry, new tools or new systems or whatever it is. But the fact that you can also attend and go to all these awesome breakout sessions and panels. And, I think that's what's so cool about what you highlighted there, Kelley, is like, there's obviously places that you can get IICRC credits and you can train your team. And there are, if you need a WRT class, that's great. That's cool. But what's cool about your event is you're focusing on maybe more the business growth side of things. And I feel like that's what restoration business owners need more so than anything else. Like, they can get the technical training. They know where to go to get that. They can get their team trained up on those types of things. But if they really want to be successful and grow their business, the business training is where they really level that up. And so I love that you guys have put a big emphasis on that. So where can people go to register? You guys got a website, obviously. It's April 8th through the 10th. Where do people need to go to find out more information?
Sure. So you can go to restorationindustry.org and there's an events menu right there. But if you're just desperate for the event page, it's convention.restorationindustry.org. So if you just Google that, you will get there, I promise. I just pulled up the countdown: 9 weeks, 5 days, 7 hours, 7 minutes, and 21 seconds left.
Wow. Down to the second.
I like that.
That's awesome.
It will be less than that.
Yeah.
When they see this podcast. So we're even faster.
It will legitimately be February when they see this podcast posted. So that's exciting. That's super, super exciting. Kelley, Stephanie, thank you again for coming on. We've talked about some awesome stuff here. I know our guests are going to obviously love to hear about, or our listeners are obviously going to love to hear about RIA. But I want to kind of close up the podcast by asking you both the same questions we ask all of our podcast guests. First question we're going to ask both of you is, you got a favorite book or podcast that you're reading or listening to, or that you've read or listened to recently? Kelley, I'll let you go first.
Most of my audio consumption right now is history based. So I'm listening to a book about Catherine de Medici. The podcast Empire is really good. Criminal Chameleon. So I have a little bit of a crime history style in my audio consumption.
Yeah.
Be careful around Kelley, everybody. Like, now you know, you've been warned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and generally my fun reading is mystery based too, so just look out. For work purposes, I'm obviously in a new role. I'm doing a lot of catch up, a lot of reading. So I'm reading a lot about what it means to be a consultant right now. I'm reading a lot of sort of business basics as kind of a stepping back for myself to be able to give some really good advice. So I just finished, it was like a Harvard Business Review like pulled together years ago that is called First Time Manager. That is just literally like you have succeeded at your job and you have been promoted to a manager. Congratulations. Nobody may tell you this stuff. And like here's a book that has it all. So I just reread that one. So I've sort of been I'm in like back basics mode in my reading right now.
Love it. That's awesome. Those are great recommendations. Thanks, Kelley. Stephanie, what about you?
I'm kind of like Kelley. I'm a little bit of a historical nerd in science, but I'm obsessed with 2 podcasts right now. So the Huberman Lab, I love that podcast.
Great.
This guy is a genius. I mean, it's just like all the different things. So I don't know. I just kind of nerd out that one of his podcasts was like 4 hours long. I'm like, how am I listening to a 4-hour long podcast episode?
That's awesome.
Driving up north to see my daughter, so it worked out well. And I also love the Mel Robbins podcast, a lot of like coaching and habits stuff. So I listen to her podcast a lot. And this isn't by happenstance, but as a team, I have it on my desk. We're reading The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, rereading one of my favorite books for team reading. And so my executive team, and now I gave it to my MIT supervisor, so they're reading together. And as on a personal note, I'm reading the First Ladies, which is kind of like a fiction book about Eleanor Roosevelt, and one of the first civil rights activists in the 20s and 30s. So great book. That's just, I love like history, science and stuff. But we read a lot of books together as a team. But this is our first book of the year. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is great. So, and I love
Such a good
Murder
one.
Mystery podcast.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
I just listened to a great Eleanor Roosevelt book. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, I'm a kind of a nerd. I love Eleanor Roosevelt. Yeah, so this is the first kind of
That's
fiction
cool.
book I've read about her. So loosely based fiction.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. Oh,
Love
we're
it.
gonna
Those
have
are
to
great
compare book
recommendations.
lists.
Yeah, we got on my list just gets longer and longer every
I
episode.
know.
So
I
great.
know.
Okay. Second question. I know you both wear a lot of hats. Obviously, you've got your regular day job, but you're also volunteering with RIA. How do you relax at the end of a long day? How do you recharge your batteries? How do you take care of yourself when you're wearing all those hats? Stephanie, maybe we'll start with you this time.
Oh, relax.
Yeah. Does that word
Um,
even work in
yeah.
your vocabulary?
No, it is. I've had to actually, like put it in my to-do list, relax. No, I'm just kidding. But no, my family, I would say, my husband, my daughters, they're like very grounding for me. I love spending time with them. I have a French bulldog that I'm obsessed with. So I spend a lot of time with him. I talk about him like he's my own child, because my kids are adults now, my daughters. And so I'm always people are like, are you talking about your dog or a kid? I'm like, my dog. Well, here's his Instagram.
Oh,
And
that's
so
awesome.
anyways, yeah, I'm obsessed with him. I'm obsessed with my husband. I love spending time with my family. I can come home and just go, and they're just like, okay, they
That's
give me
awesome.
the best advice. So I'm super blessed and I'm grateful for them. So they keep me really grounded, relaxed, and they give me the best work advice. My daughters, they're millennials and Gen Z. And so whenever I think I know anything about leading, they're like, nope.
That's amazing.
So yeah. Thank you for
Great.
asking.
That's awesome. Kelley, what about you?
Oh, mine's similar. My husband's been my partner for a long time, so we definitely kind of run through our days together at the end of the day and bounce ideas off each other, and sort of get into relaxing mode. I do a lot of reading, so I read a lot at night. We'll watch, like, generally, depending on how the day went, either really sort of dark TV or really funny comedies. For a while, I got really obsessed with all the zoo reality TV shows because I just like to watch the animals. And I realized, okay, I need to take action about this. So I'm actually just starting now to volunteer at the ASPCA. That's a couple blocks away from me too. So I'm
That's awesome.
no animals in the house right now, but starting to get back into that world slowly. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm hoping that'll be a good sort of bring it down moment for me as well.
Do you watch? I would assume you do. Do you watch on Netflix like true crime documentaries and stuff like that?
I do. I do. I'm cautious.
Yeah. I watched one the other day. Maybe we'll talk after we're done recording. I watched one the other day that was fascinating. That
Really?
just came out on Netflix, and yeah, it was incredible. I'll get the name of it, and I'll
We'll
tell you
put a
after
pin
we're
in
done
that.
recording.
Yeah.
We'll put a pin in it. That's great.
I'm very scared of both of you right now. Just so you know. Very scared of both of you.
I love those documentaries, so I didn't want to put that down because I want people to be afraid of me too.
No.
Like, this could turn into a murder mystery podcast.
We're gonna be a real weird cult this year at the
I know, I didn't want to seem too culty.
I'm all in on those documentaries. My wife got me into them when we got married, and that's weirdly enough, that's how I relax at the end of a long day sometimes too, is we'll go flip on Making a Murderer or something like that. We'll just, I don't know. It's just something about them, they're just fascinating.
Makes you feel a little bit better about yourself.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I don't have it so rough,
Yeah.
Seriously.
You just look at your spouse like, I'm a good person.
Yeah. You should be happy. Okay. No. Oh, that's great. Last question. This one, feel free to kind of take whatever direction you want, but it's one of my favorites that I love to ask is, if you could rewind to the beginning of your career, so you can take it to the beginning of your career in restoration, or maybe it's just your beginnings with RIA, whatever direction you want to go. But if you could rewind to the beginning of your career and tell your younger self one thing, what would that one thing be? Kelley, what do you think?
Oof, that's hard. I love where I'm at. So I think it all happened the way it happened for a reason. So I'd hate to undo any of it. I probably would have told myself to get out of my bubble sooner.
Love it.
And to put myself out there more than I did. Yeah.
It's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
Stephanie, what about you?
Yeah, I'm like Kelley too. I think that that there's nothing I would do differently. I think that everything that's happened has happened for a reason. And I even think that the times where it's been, a struggle in my career, it's actually made me better at what I'm doing now. So I really appreciate that. Like, I reflect back on those times. But for me, I think I would tell myself definitely to like slow down, be a lot more patient. I'm a result-oriented person, and that's sometimes gotten in the way with being a better leader. And so it was always like, do, results. And I think that as I have slowed down in the last, I would say even last couple of years, that I've grown a lot. Like I've become more patient, compassionate, have more empathy. And so I wish I would have got there quicker, but that's okay. I'm okay with that, So yeah, for sure.
I want to change my answer to Stephanie's answer.
Stop.
That was a good one.
There is no wrong answer to that question. Those were both great.
We have similar personalities, so it's the same.
We really do.
Yeah. I love it. Stephanie, Kelley, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Katie was really excited about this one, and I had not met either of you. So I can say now at the end of this, I'm so glad we had both of you on. I'm excited for this RIA event. I know a lot of our clients and affiliates that we have in the industry attend, and they talk about it as their favorite event. And so I just really appreciate you both coming on. I know our audience is going to get a lot of really awesome value out of this podcast. And we hope to have you both on again in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for helping us spread the word. We love it.
Better book your room, everybody. Get registered, and we will see you at RIA.
Yep, invest in your team.
This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.